Welcome to this episode of the Brush and Soap and Blade Podcast, where we look forward to shaving every day. Welcome to episode 147 of the podcast. My name is Rick DeWeese. I'll be your host this week. Okay, so we'll start off with a shave of the day, and then I got to playing with my canner a little bit, just messing around with it, and I'll tell you about that. Another shave of the day. So I went antique shopping and found, well, much to my chagrin, one of my pet peeves, razor blades still in razors. Not good, so I'll talk to you about that. I have ranted about that in the past. This time it's a little bit calmer, but it is still something of a serious discussion. Tips for better sounding audio. I had somebody send me an email and say, hey, what can I do to get better audio? And so I'll talk to you about a little bit about that based on my experience. Another shave of the day, playing with my canner part 2. So thought about it, and actually went and did it. Another shave of the day. Have you ever had one of those mornings? It was a reflection after what I saw this weekend in some of the football games. Then I turned around and had an interesting morning. Tell you all about that. And then sometimes just thinking about something is all you need. That's enough distraction that just kind of resets your mind into different areas and allows you to, be more productive, have more fun, and just, think about things. So it's good stuff all the way around. Anyhow, that's the show this week. Let's get on with this thing. All right, back in the mobile studio, driving down the road, going to the donut factory, otherwise known as work. Yes, I've been off a couple of days. I took a couple of days vacation and really thoroughly enjoyed myself. And in fact, one of the things that I went to do was, just check out and visit multiple antique shops. I enjoy antiques, and quite honestly, it's fun because my wife actually helps me look for razors. She'll go through one direction, I'll go another direction, or we'll both just check out the same stuff. And we both enjoy looking at this stuff, but she'll like, yeah, there's some right there. You want to look at these? How about these? Hey, there's some over here. Oh, true love. Anyhow, I found something, and I found a couple of things, but the thing that I found was I found a new Gillette short comb, new. Yeah, and it's a new one for me, and it's gold-plated. However, someone had done something to it, and I'll talk about that in another segment, but I picked one up, and so in light of that, the shave of the day today is with my current Gillette short comb new, the one that has absolutely no plating left on it, but it is what it is, and it has been a daily driver on occasion for many, many months, when all total time is looked at. And so that's what I used today with a new Gillette blue blade in it, a Gillette silver blue, and it was good. It was real good. It was just like I remembered it. I mean, it was, you're talking about a razor that's 70 years old. 1930s vintage, I guess. So 70, 80 years old. Good stuff. Holy cow. Now, the only problem with the one that I have is that one of the end teeth, because it is an open comb, one of the end teeth is bent. Someone dropped it. And I've always just had a lot of trepidation about trying to straighten it out. And it works just fine, and it was a daily driver, and it had no plating left on it, so it's been fine. But the new one, all of its teeth are straight. Woohoo! Anyhow, the shave of the day today was with my Nathan Clark Brush and Soap and Blade brush, as well as some Katie's Bubbles Honey Noir in the Suribachi bowl. yes, I have been using the Suribachi bowl, and it is, in fact, a lather machine. And I've also found that it retains water a little bit better than the salsa bowl in all the grooves and everything. So under normal circumstances, I would probably add a teaspoon of water. If I do that with the Suribachi bowl, it comes out, well, too liquidy, and so I end up having to just use 1 or even a half a teaspoon of water just to add an additional bit. It's pretty close, just straight out, and if I don't shake the brush out just quite, heartily, it turns out to be about perfect. So the Suribachi lather machine, the rabid, foaming at the mouth Suribachi bowl, came into play this morning and did a fine job. Lathered up and proceeded with a 3-pass with some touch-up, and a very nice shave was had. And what I wanted to do was do that. And then what I'll do is I'll clean up the one that I got at the antique store the other day and kind of do a head-to-head to see if this new is as good as the old new. If you can follow along with that. Anyhow, it was a pretty good shave of the day. So I was talking to my older son the other day. He came home from college to do some laundry and to just kind of hang out, which was nice. And got to talking about food. Now, he's on a food plan up at the school, but they've got one of their cafeterias or whatever they call it closing down, and they don't have a replacement for it, and so it's kind of a mess right now. And he's having to kind of, struggle a little bit to feed himself. Now, this is especially true because, he's gotten into powerlifting and so has to consume a rather large quantity of calories on a daily basis just to be able to maintain and, do what he likes to do. Okay, so I got to thinking, and one of the things that I used to do as a young man is, make spaghetti. And, of course, the spaghetti is nice, but it's the spaghetti sauce that really, really makes it. And so for me, I have enjoyed, and in fact, that's one of the things that way back when the kids were small, that's how I taught them how to use knives. Started out with table knives and cutting up peppers, and slowly graduated them to sharp knives and cutting up peppers and onions and mushrooms and everything else that goes in a good spaghetti sauce. And, we never had any issues or incidents in doing it that way. In slowly working them up to, all right, here's a knife, here's how you use it, here's what you do, here's a pepper, I cut it in half for them, now slice this thing up, and start off with a table knife and then go with a sharp knife, and over time, they get very familiar and very comfortable with knives, and realize that yes, knives are very useful, and sharp knives even more so. So that was good. Anyhow, I was sitting there thinking, and thinking to myself, you have a canner. And so it's like, how about this for an idea? How about I can up, or I make some of my rather famous, at least within the family, spaghetti sauce, and can it. Now, if I put it in smaller jars, it's basically enough for, one serving, a big serving, mind you, but a serving of spaghetti. And seeing as how the young man is looking for something that has a lot of calories and is easy to cook, you can't get much easier than throwing a pot of water on the stove, bringing it to a boil, throwing some spaghetti in there, letting it cook, straining it off, and then what I used to do is just throw the spaghetti sauce in the bowl. Wouldn't heat up the spaghetti sauce, because having it in the bowl like that does two things. First off, it cools down the spaghetti, and you can eat right out of the pot there. And it's pretty easy for the quote unquote bachelor to go ahead and have himself something to eat and at least fill him up. So I offered that. I said, hey, what do you think? The response that I got was not quite what I anticipated. I had anticipated that, well, yeah, okay, sure, I'll try it, kind of, oh, God, here we go. Dad's on one of his kicks again, what's he going to make me do now? Okay, sure. No, the response that I got was, yeah, that's a great idea. I was kind of taken aback going, okay, crap, now I got to figure out how to do this. But it's good for me because it gives me the ability to practice with my electric canner and see what else I can do with it, and just kind of have fun, and at the same time help out the young man in his ever-ending quest or never-ending quest for nutrition. Well, and that tastes good because when you only have about 2 or 3 options. Those options get stale after a while. I mean, you can only do, it's like using the same soap every single day. I mean, yeah, it does the job, but it's not like you run around going, yeah, I shaved a day with, well, the same old thing, and wow, isn't it exciting? No, you really don't do that. You kind of just go, okay, it's another day and another shave, and it's like, well, okay, it's better than it used to be with a can of goo, but at the same time, it's the same stuff that I've been using for the last year and a half, and God, I wish this soap would run out so I could do something different. At least that's how it would be for me, because I tend to like a variety in things, and so there you go. An opportunity to bring one of my hobbies to a good cause and, share a little bit. Well, good morning. Okay, so it is time to talk about none other than the shave of the day. Okay, so we've had quite an exciting couple of days here at the Brush and Soap and Blade podcast, specifically a mail call, and had some fun there. So, okay. So I come home the other day, and there's a box sitting there on the kitchen table waiting for me, and it is none other than my new Samog 1305 brush. Yes, I said I was going to get a new one. I did. And it was absolutely beautiful. Just absolutely beautiful. Love those brushes. Anyhow, so we begin the break-in period, which for a Samog is, well, rather, I'm not going to say shortened, but it's at least pleasant because, again, the bristles don't have any smell. They don't have any odor per se. They've been washed, flushed, whatever. There's something that they do to process those things, and they don't have any undue odor. So that is really, really good. And then along with it, just to make things exciting, I got a new shaving cream, specifically Taylor of Old Bond Street cedarwood shaving cream. Now, I was intrigued by this because I was wondering if a cedarwood had the same, I don't know, sort of aromatics, if you will, as sandalwood. And yes, lo and behold, it does, but I don't have a reaction to it. Hallelujah. So I can actually enjoy a cedarwood, sandalwood type shave in my shaving soap without suffering unduly. So life is good. In addition to that, I mean, there's just more stuff going on this week than anything else. I'll tell you what. In addition to that, I was at Walmart the other day, walking down the aisle, as I usually do, checking out the shaving aisle, and lo and behold, I sit there and I see a Vanderhagen ice-tempered blade in a big old box package, which I think to myself, wow, that's expensive to produce. And I said, well, okay, it's like $5. I'll go ahead and buy it. So I did. So I've been using an ice-tempered Vanderhagen blade, which is supplied by somebody else. They're made in Germany, so it's one of the companies there that makes those blades. But it's supposedly ice-tempered, so I'll have to do a little research on that and figure out who is making those blades. But I went and put that in my new short comb Gillette open comb razor that I picked up, my new that I picked up the other day that still has the majority of all its gold plating on it, and it's just a beautiful razor. And yes, it is the same just wonderful feel of my old Moo. Because now I have two of them. I have the old one, and now I got the new one. And so, yeah, so I got a bar handle short comb, and I've got two of them, and one is just all down to the copper and brass at this point. There is no plating left on it anywhere, and it's got one tooth bent, and that has been a daily driver for a long, long time, just because it is a wonderful razor, especially when you consider the fact that it's 70 years old or so, and it's a great razor, rather gentle. I'd put it on a 3 or a 4 really on the Fat Boy scale as far as feel, although in effectiveness it's closer to a 5. I mean, it's really it's kind of a unique razor. It feels good, it's gentle, but at the same time it's a very, very effective razor. And so I have one of those, the old one, and now I've got a new one, which I was hoping would be of the same caliber, if you will, but it has all of its gold plating, and it just looks good, and its teeth are all straight, and yeah, life is good. It only has one problem, and we'll talk about that later. Anyhow, it doesn't detract from the ability of this razor to provide a wonderful shave. So, yeah, so I'm doing all that at the same time, and in addition to that, I'm using the Suribachi bowl with the grooves cut in the bottom, and it's just fabulous. It really is. So a little bit of, soak the brush, new brush, a little bit stiff, but that's okay. It'll loosen up here in a little bit, and loosen that, soak the brush to get it a little bit more supple. Put a little bit of the Taylor of Old Bond Street cedarwood cream on it, throw it in a Suribachi bowl, and watch the lather just explode out of that rabid monster. And then away you go shaving with the new Gillette short comb, and life is good. Now, the Vanderhagen blade, the other day I was shaving with it and got a couple weepers. Might have been me, might have been that I was using excess pressure or wasn't paying attention. This morning, didn't have that problem. But yesterday, yeah, well, I did. So, I don't know. It might have been me, it might have been the blade. Now, I will say that so far I've gotten about 3 or 4 shaves out of that blade. And, it'll do. It's not the greatest in the world. It'll do. It's got a little bit more blade feel than some of my better blades, but I mean, it works. So it's plausible and passable. So well, there you go. It's one of those things. You got to try it, right? I mean, it might work great for you. I don't know. At least, if nothing else, it's available and it's convenient to buy. So that's not necessarily a bad thing. Now, the thing that did get me is that so you get this box that's about the size of a deck of cards, maybe just a little bit smaller, and you open it up, and there's one little plastic double-edged razor box in there floating around. It's not stabilized or anything. It's literally just, somebody just opened the box and threw it in. And, you look at that and go, okay, this is a bit of excess packaging here. And the mind that I have, I'm sitting there going, okay, do they have somebody in some sweatshop somewhere throwing these blades in this box and then closing the box, or do they have a machine doing it? And what does that look like? And how does that operate? It's just, my mind goes strange places. But, okay, it's a nice box, and it does have the Vanderhagen logos and, colors and everything else on it. So, okay, from a marketing standpoint, I get that. But, yeah, it's a bit much. They could probably have done the same thing with a bubble wrap, or not a bubble wrap, what's the word for it? Like a vacuum pack or something? Oh, well. It's just, you look at those things and you go, really? That's a bit over the top. It's like buying a Ferrari and opening the hood and seeing a 4-banger. It's like, okay, yeah, nice packaging, great packaging. Where's the rest of it? But the blades do seem to cut okay, and they seem to work okay. So, in a pinch, yeah, I definitely could see that as an option, and don't have a problem with that at all. So, all in all, good stuff, good shave. Threw on some American, some fine aftershave, some American blend, and out the door we go. So, all good stuff. So, of course, antique hunting, hopefully, if you are out there and if you are a fan of vintage razors, antique hunting, well, allows you to find things, old razors and stuff. Now, everybody thinks, okay, when they look upon a straight razor, they have this they have this knowledge, this foreknowledge, if you will, that yes, in fact, the straight razor is sharp. Yes, in fact, if you grab the blade of the straight razor, it will hurt you. However, safety razors, on the other hand, are a bit of a different animal. People have this nasty tendency to think that safety razors are, well, safe, especially when they pick them up at antique stores or flea markets or yard sales or whatever. And this, unfortunately, has led to my pet peeve. Yes, in fact, I found it over and over again at the antique stores that I frequented during this little vacation. And in doing so, I attempted to, politely and kindly assist and educate. What did I find? Old razor blades stuck in safety razors. Now, you're probably thinking, yeah, but it's a safety razor. It's supposed to have a blade. Okay, couple of things going on there. First off, you got people picking up razors that may not know what a razor is or may expect the razor to be, how shall we say, safe, and grabbing it by the head and exposing their skin to the old blade and cutting themselves. Yes. Now, the other thing is, I don't know about you, but I have no idea where that razor has been. I have no idea what the blade has been exposed to in its life, and quite often the blades are corroded, rusty, nasty messes. Yeah, they've probably been knocked around. They've got chunks of the edge knocked off. I mean, it's just a bad scene all over. And the biggest thing for me is, okay, if you're running a yard sale, or if you're a booth in a flea market, or run an antique store, the absolute last thing that you want is for one of your customers to get hurt on the merchandise that you are trying to sell. It's called liability. And, yeah, nobody wants liability. And having old razor blades in razors is, in fact, a huge liability for a store or a person. And that is what I politely and gently tried to explain to these people as I was taking these blades out of these razors, wrapping them in tape, and having them disposed of properly. Holy cow. Yeah. So it's been my pet peeve for a while. I mean, I talked about that and when I ranted, I ranted about that in an earlier show way back when, back in the day, year one. Yeah. It's been a pet peeve for a while. And it's one of those things. It's like, if you don't know what you're doing, don't mess with it. But at the same time, attempt at least to make it safe. Find somebody that does know how to make it safe and, move forward in that fashion. Or better yet, if you have something that's like that, keep it up in the front counter, and when somebody asks for it, hand it to them by the handle because, well, you know what you're doing and they may not. Point it out, do something. I mean, gee whiz, come on. We got to do better than this, guys. Anyhow, so I found a couple. Now, the other thing that happens, unfortunately, is when you leave an old blade in a razor, you end up with what happened to my new short comb. My new short comb. Yeah. It corroded. It corroded heavily. And I will take pictures to show that. But, yeah, you don't want to be leaving blades in razors for an extended period of time, especially if they're exposed to moisture, because it will corrode and degrade and devalue your razors. It will happen. Especially if you have an old carbon steel blade instead of one of the stainless steel blades. I mean, stainless is bad enough and it will in fact corrode over time. Carbon steel just does it faster. And, yeah, like I said, I'll take some pictures as I'm trying to clean this up. I'll probably do that tonight. But, yeah, watch out for the blades and the razors. You know, try to kindly educate if you do run into that situation, and have a good time out there. Maybe you'll find something that you want as well. So I got an email from somebody the other day, and they said that, you know, they'd been a fan of the show for a while, and thanks for the work, but one of the questions that they asked was that I'm doing some stuff. I'm doing some audio stuff, whether that be YouTube channels or a podcast or audio for something else, and it doesn't really matter what it is. But they asked the question, what can I do to make my audio sound better? Okay, so listening to several different audio clips, one of the things that is very noticeable to me, anyhow, is especially if you are in a room that has bare walls and a lot of solid surfaces, and you're using either the phone mic, you know, a microphone that is on your smartphone or an iPad or something like that, or you're using a better mic, one that's on a camera or something like that. Keep in mind that most of those microphones, by their very nature, are condenser microphones, which means they pick up everything. They pick up every little nuance, echo, pin drop, water drop, etc. that happens within the environment that they are in. And if you're in a room, whether that be a bathroom or wherever, kitchen, I've seen it in kitchens as well, because people do videos on how to do things in the kitchen. And one thing that I've noticed is that if they're just using a camera or a cell phone with the condenser mics, they get echoes. And you can hear it because there's this echo quality in the audio that you hear. And it's essentially what's happening is the sound of their voice, of, you know, water, of machines, whether that be a grinder, mixer, whatever, is essentially bouncing around amongst all those hard surfaces within the room. Now, within a professional studio, what they do is they have sound-absorbing panels and things like that to absorb that, and it's called deadening the room. And what happens when you deaden a room is that you can shout, yell, whatever, and there are no echoes. It's like it hits the sound panels and stops. Now, you can do the same thing within a room by stacking up. Well, okay, the easiest way to explain the difference is go into a room that is typically nothing but hard surfaces, and that is your bathroom. And turn on your phone or whatever recording device you use and just recite something. It doesn't matter what you're talking about, but recite something. Read a passage out of a book, repeat a commercial. Do something to get some sound, but it needs to be about a minute in length with a good amount of articulation within the words. And the reason that that's important is that certain words will cause echoes more so than others. And so do that, and then walk into your closet if it's big enough. And if you have a closet where you have a bunch of hanging clothes, that is perfect. Do the same thing in there. Recite exactly the same things. And now either watch the videos or listen to the audio from both of those events. And what you will notice is the one that is from the closet, you get the voice, you get the words, but you don't get any echoes. You don't get any stuff in the background. You don't get any tinniness or ringing or strange sounds that are in the background. And essentially what those strange sounds are the echoes of your voice bouncing around off the walls in the room, of the room that you would normally be working in, and causing you not necessarily audio issues, but potentially making it so that your audio isn't the best quality. Now, what performers do is they will play with the adjustment of the gain, etc., so that, yes, they can still use condenser microphones, but in order to pick up what it is they're saying, they have to hold them fairly close to their mouths, and if they're a good bit away, yeah, it'll pick it up, but it's not that much because the gain's turned down. Or they use dynamic microphones, which don't pick up the background noise. They're very, directional almost. Or they'll use something like a directional shotgun mic or something like that. And there's many different ways to do it. But it's the way that you use the mic. And if you're using a microphone, USB microphones, for example, are typically always condenser microphones. I hear this in podcasts a lot where people will do it in an office with, it's got a hardwood floor and it's got, either plasterboard or paneling on the walls, and you can just hear echoes. And it's like, okay, that's nice, but it would sound potentially better, and this is for you to decide. I can't tell you what sounds better or what sounds worse. But to me, it sounds better. So make up your own mind. But one of the potential solutions, for example, if you're working, say, in a bathroom, is to stack up some towels around the room to absorb some of the sounds. Stack them up around the phone, kind of on either side, so that it's on either side of the phone, so that the phone only picks up what you're saying, and some of the echoes and bounces off the wall, or if you're looking into a mirror, off of the mirror, don't bounce into the phone. So that's one way. In rooms where you're doing podcasts, say you have a USB mic on a desk or something, you can hang blankets in the room. They actually have designs on the web where you can create frames out of PVC to hang blankets, and that works. Just hang them up next to the walls and or suspend them from the walls, and you have some sound deadening right there available, and it works fairly well. Heavier blankets or quilts work very, very nicely for that, and something that has some thickness to it and some padding. I've used wool blankets in the past, and those have worked very, very nicely. People sometimes use moving blankets, and that also works very nicely. But anyhow, those are some of the things that you can do just initially to help with the sound quality of any recordings that you do at home. Oh, and another thing that you can do, that's one of the reasons that I record in the mobile studio, in the truck, is that most modern automobiles are very good when it comes to sound deadening. So that's another option that you have if you don't have a closet full of clothes. Go out to your car or your truck and shut the doors, roll up the windows, and record a piece in there, and notice the difference. Because first off, you have sound deadening, but you also have upholstery and chairs with foam and things like that. So it does a very good job of deadening the sounds and preventing any reflected sounds or echoes from, potentially interfering with the quality of what it is you're trying to record. So those would be some tips that I would give just initially. If you have some questions about recording sounds, whatever, give me a shout, and I'll try to answer as soon as I can. All right. Well, it's another beautiful day. 68 degrees out here, about perfect for the beginning of fall day type situation. Just gorgeous morning, bright sunshine. You know, it's just, the pond out back looks like a mirror. Oh, good stuff, yeah. Anyhow, today's shave of the day also followed along the footsteps of being just absolutely gorgeous and great. So, let's talk about it. So, this morning's shave of the day, I used my my new 1305 brush, and it's starting to break in nicely. And not having any issues, and really, really enjoying it. Starting to soften up just a little bit, so it's nice. Now, it's interesting because if I look at the 1438 brush that I had, that I bought not too long ago, it softened up a little bit as well by about this time in its life. The thing is that the 1305 will continue to get softer as those tips split and just becomes nicer and nicer, whereas the 1438, it will get just a little bit better and then kind of stop. It's probably close to its plateau. We shall see. Anyhow, so I am continuing with the Vanderhagen ice-tempered blade from who knows where at this point, and that blade is in my my new Gillette short comb, and so we're going to be enjoying that this morning. One thing that I noticed in shaving this morning is that if you are taking your new comb, your short comb new, or for that matter, more than likely your old Gillette, any open comb razor for that matter, if you are taking it, and if as you shave you are getting tracks in your shave cream, in your lather, then your angle that you're holding your razor at, and therefore the blade, isn't touching your skin correctly. Because if you then take and just rotate it up just a little bit, you get nice contact of the blade to your skin, and you get a much better shave without any pressure. Now, of course, if you are leaving tracks, like you're using a rake on your lather, what's happening is your guides are pushing down just a little bit in the lather, and you will be getting some shaving qualities, but they're going to be where your skin has essentially puckered underneath the open comb. And so what ends up happening then, to get a clean shave in that situation, you end up, kind of almost falling into the trap of applying pressure in order to get a correct shave. Whereas if you just rotate that thing up just a little bit so that the blade shaves all of the soap off cleanly, you can get a much more effective shave, with no pressure. And just becomes, just more enjoyable. So I thought I'd throw that out there. Anyhow, the cedar wood, of course, is just absolutely perfect for me because it kind of has a sandalwood type scent, but I don't have the sensitivity that I get with sandalwood. So for me, it's the best of all worlds. It is a good soap. It's a cream, which makes loading just a non-issue. Just touch the tips to the cream a couple of times, get a little bit on there, and voila. You have a nice lather, smells good, has kind of a cedar, a sandalwood type thing going on, although it's cedar. and just brilliant shave. And of course, the Suribachi bowl, which has soundly beaten out the salsa bowl at this point. I'm going to have to do some modifications, I think, to the salsa bowl to make it a contender again. We'll worry about that at a later date. But for right now, I'm enjoying the salsa bowl, or the Suribachi bowl, rather, and just getting some experience with that. You know, as we have known all along within the wet shaving community, having some type of pattern, some type of, I don't know, what's the best word for it? Something etched into the bottom of the bowl, some kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Anyhow, the Suribachi bowl is perfect because it has grooves that are molded into the bottom of the bowl, and they're square-cut grooves, you know, because the Suribachi bowl is actually made to be used with a pestle, or a mortar, rather, and it's supposed to be like the pestle, and those square grooves basically allow the bowl to cut herbs, and that's what it's used for, is for herbs and spices and things, and so that's what it's designed to do, and it does a good job with lather, that's for sure. So no problems there. Again, the rabid Suribachi bowl, only because as soon as you throw a brush to it, it starts foaming at the mouth. Yeah, I've met some people like that too. Anyhow, a great shave was had. The blade is probably getting close. I mean, I've had 4 or 5 shaves on it now. It's probably getting close to its end of life. I mean, it works okay. It's not the best blade in the world, but it's very suitable. You know, it's very usable, and goodness knows, being in Walmart, it is accessible easily. So I would not shy away if somebody wanted to try wet shaving and happened to find an old vintage double edge somewhere, like at an antique store or a yard sale. Go down to Walmart and pick up a pack of these blades and at least try it out. You know, it's you're not going to kill yourself. You're not going to scrape your face off in doing so. So, yeah, not too bad. So anyhow, then I finished up. I was sitting around, and you know, I've just gotten done shaving with cedarwood soap, or cream rather, and I'm sitting around and thinking to myself, self, what fragrance goes best with this? What should I go with? Should I go with leather? Should I go with? I mean, you know, there's a myriad of choices out there, and what would be a good one? And lo and behold, I looked down and realized that I had a bottle of Ogallala, bay rum, sage, and cedar. Aha! That's it. That's the choice. So that's the aftershave that we used today. Was the Ogallala, bay rum, sage, and cedar. Now, one thing that I've noticed about this particular aftershave is that it's not very long lasting. It smells great, but it's not very long lasting, and so that is one downfall. But for the time that it does last, it is heavenly. At least in my head, after shaving with cedarwood, it's just yeah, good stuff. So I was playing around yesterday and got off work and decided, okay, I'm going to go ahead and play with my electric canner and make some spaghetti sauce. I mean, the wife will be happy anyhow because I'm making dinner, so it's all good, right? So I go to the store and buy all the ingredients that I usually use for spaghetti sauce, and come home and commence to cooking spaghetti sauce. And yeah, it was a little watery. I used a little bit too much water, but hey, it turned out okay. You know, I just have to simmer it down a good bit. Anyhow, went ahead and did that, cooked up some spaghetti, had dinner, and then after dinner, took the while I was having dinner, I guess, threw my canning jars in the oven to warm them up, and after dinner, went ahead and took the leftover spaghetti sauce, and yes, I made a fair amount. Took the leftover spaghetti sauce and put it in glass mason. Well, actually, they're ball jars, I guess. That just sounds wrong. Anyhow, one of those things that first thing in the morning you go, what? Wait, what did I just say? Anyhow, went ahead and put the excess sauce or the surplus sauce in the jars, proceeded to load up my electric canner and canned them. Yeah. And learned a few things, which is pretty cool. Okay, so this little electric canner I can do 5 pints or 4 quarts. And what I found out, and it's probably true for any canning situation, is once things are done, to leave it alone for a while and let things cool down naturally, because if you take it out too fast and pull the heat off of it too fast, the heat just kind of wants to get away and out of the jars and ends up messing up your seals. Yeah, I had 2 failures because I was too speedy. Now, on the other hand, I had 3 extra jars that I left in the canner for 3 extra jars, put in the canner, and basically turned the thing on and went to bed. When I did that, those cans were sealed perfectly, and no issues, no problems. But the ones that I took out of the 5, I had 2 that failed, and I am convinced it's because I took them out too soon, didn't let them slowly warm down, if you will, or cool down. So, okay, lesson learned. It's one of those things. It's just like wet shaving. You don't get it right the first time. It's part of learning, and that's part of the adventure. Take the jars that didn't seal, put the rings back on them, throw them in the refrigerator, and we'll eat those later. No big deal. And the good news is that I've got some jars of spaghetti sauce that, I can enjoy, and I can give a couple to my son and in college, and yeah, good stuff. And it was a learning opportunity. And again, it's one of those things, you need to go out there and learn. You need to go out there and try, because if you don't try and fail, you don't learn. That's just kind of the way life is. And, the sooner that we can teach ourselves and more importantly, our children, that if they don't try and fail, they're never going to learn anything, the better off everybody will be. If you want a society, you want a culture that has the ability to learn and create marvelous things, well, that same society, before they can create those marvelous things, has to fail at creating marvelous things. And in order to do that, you got to try. And it's just one of those little interesting tidbits of life. And it's okay if you fail, especially if you do it in such a way that no harm, no foul, or you run into a situation where it failed, but no big deal. Nobody got hurt, nobody got killed, and it's all good. So having some spaghetti sauce sit out on a counter in a jar for a overnight while it slowly cools down and then goes into a refrigerator. I'm sorry, after being baked at 240 degrees or so for an hour, there's nothing in there to cause any issues or harm. Even if I did bust the seal, I doubt very seriously that all of a sudden they're going to have microbes galore growing in the spaghetti sauce. So, probably a pretty safe situation. So, anyhow, it was an interesting experience, and it was fun. That's the other thing. It was fun. If you find those hobbies that you think would be fun and jump into them with both feet, try, learn, fail, do all that good stuff. Have a good time doing it, That's it's kind of like wet shaving. If it's not fun, stop. Just go back to what you were doing, quite honestly. Granted, I would like everybody to be wet shaving, but if it's tedious, if it's like, oh my God, this takes too much time, back up, stop. If you're not having fun, you got to question why. And now, if you are having fun, great. But if you're not, that's why I say, for a lot of people, a cartridge razor is very, very easy, and maybe the way to go is start off with soaps and your own lather, or creams in your own lather, instead of having to fight so many variables all at one time. Go with something that, or even just go with fragrances of aftershave and just say, yeah, this will be interesting and fun, because quite honestly, all the stuff, goo in a can stuff that you've got, it's, fairly mundane in the odor department. So there's a lot of room for improvement there. So, maybe the kickoff point is just go with various aftershaves and things like that. There's the key thing is that if you're not having fun in what you're doing, you got to take a step back from time to time and question, why am I doing this? What is it that I'm trying to get out of it? Anyhow, for me, I'm out here having a great time. Hope you are too. All right, well, let's talk about the shave of the day after I get my coffee cup situated here in the mobile studio, because got a coffee cup here that doesn't want to fit the cup holder just quite right. So there's always danger in that, especially when you're driving down the road with a cup of hot coffee. Anyhow, let's talk about the shave of the day. So the shave of the day today was, pretty much what it was yesterday, with one change. Okay, first off, went ahead and used the cedar wood, the Taylor of Old Bond Street cedar wood again. Love this stuff. Just really, really love it. The amount of lather that I get out of that is just phenomenal for a cream. I mean, it just really is amazing. So we have some cedar wood going on, and doing that with the 1305 Samog brush, my new one, slowly breaking it in. It's starting to feather just a little bit, and if I look at the tips, they're starting to break and break down and split and soften up just a bit. And it's been about a week, so that's normal. And over time it'll get better and better, and probably around the 2 or 3 month point, it'll be about where the old one was. Now, it's funny, when I set the two next to each other, and I've got a picture that I'll put up on the blog, but when I set them next to each other, it's amazing. The painted band around the knot itself is fairly clear on the new one, and it's been faded quite a bit on the older one, to show just basically how much use I've had out of it. So that was rather interesting. So use the 1305, use the Suribachi bowl, the Rabid Suribachi bowl. Great lather this morning, spilling out of the bowl. You almost look at it and go, okay, I think the Suribachi bowl at the mouth is like 5.5 inches. And, that is about right if it was just a touch deeper. It either needs to be a little bit wider or a little bit deeper, quite honestly, for the amount of lather that the thing produces. Either that, or else I have to stop loading my brushes as much and go that route. So maybe next week I'll go back to the ye old salsa bowl and see how it compares. But so far I've been very happy and very impressed with the $10 or $11 Suribachi bowl. And so a great combination with the Samog bore brush. Okay, so I am still using my Gillette new short comb with the bar handle, and my gold one now. And what I did is I changed out the blade, and I changed out the blade for a Kai. Yeah, I went ahead and did it. The Vanderhagen blade, okay, it was nice and it works, and okay, ice tempered. I don't know. I still haven't spent the time to look it up. I might do that before the podcast. I might not. Heck, I don't know. But it worked. But it's a lower medium grade blade in my opinion. It's not. For me, a Kai or Feather or Gillette Silver Blue is top of the line there, and. Then you got the middle of the road, and then you got the bottom stuff that you wouldn't give to an enemy. And, the Vanderhagen blades, they work okay, but they just don't feel quite as nice. I mean, the Kai blade, as it's sliding along your skin, is just, it's sublime almost. It really is. There's no concept of irritation at all, at least with the soap and blade combination that I was using this morning. So I went ahead and, like I said, changed out the Vanderhagen blade because 4 shaves is probably about as much as it could take anyhow, and put a Kai blade in, and boy, am I glad I did, because, BBS shave, just absolutely beautiful. Went ahead again with the Ogallala Bay Rum, Sage, and Cedar. Now, the thing that's interesting is that typically with the Ogallala Bay Rum mixtures, you get the witch hazel burn, okay? Which, if you have a little bit of irritation on your skin, it will burn just a little bit, and you can usually tell, or at least I can, when I have done a very, very nice job shaving with no irritation, because I go ahead and splash on some Ogallala, and it feels like I'm splashing on water. 5 minutes afterwards, it still feels like I've just splashed on water. Yeah, that means that there's no irritation at all on my skin, and I am just, throwing witch hazel on good conditioned skin, and there are no cuts, scrapes, abrasions, or anything else that would cause me, to suffer the witch hazel burn. And that's what it was like this morning with that Kai blade. It was like, yeah, that's kind of nice. And it was a little bit, shall I say, harsher the other day after shaving with the Vanderhagen blade for the 4th time. Might have been okay with 1 or 2 shaves on it, but after the 4th one and some Ogallala, yeah, there's a little bit of burn there. So all in all, good stuff, and good way to start a day, and a beautiful day it is. Holy cow. Just kind of gorgeous. A little bit of dew on the grass, shimmering in the sunlight. It's just beautiful out here. 72 degrees. It's just about perfect. If I didn't have to go to work, I wouldn't. I would stay at home and enjoy this day, I'll tell you what. And hopefully I'll enjoy it at work. I mean, every day starts off good if I wake up and am able to put 2 feet on the ground. Like I've said many times, ventilating and vertical is a good way to start the day. After that, it's up to me. Well, this weekend and Labor Day and everything was rather interesting. First off, college football. Holy cow. Well, it started off Friday night with high school football. And, of course, my team got beat. Oh, my gosh, they got beat badly. It was like, what happened? It was not the same team as we had last year. Let's just put it at that. And, I mean, it's okay to watch, but there were some mistakes that were made that, good gosh, I couldn't take it anymore. And about, probably halfway through the 4th quarter, I just packed up my stuff and said, okay, I know we're going to lose, and the way these guys are playing, it can only get worse. I'm tired. I'm going home. So then over the weekend, we're sitting there and we're watching college football, and some of the games were great, and some of them were like, just, what? To see a running back with a football running toward the end zone and drop the football, just drop it before he gets to the end zone. Now, he's run, good gosh, 30 yards holding on to the football, and then right before he gets to the end zone, he drops it. What? Okay. So why am I talking about this? Well, because this morning, as I was getting ready to shave, I kept bumping into things. I kept dropping things. I kept knocking things over, and things would slip out of my hands. And it was like, holy cow, what is going on here? This is just so completely, abnormal, or as we oftentimes call it, abnormal. It was one of those events where it was just a moment in time where the brain was thinking one thing and the body was doing something that just almost like the hands were disconnected for a moment, and there was no motor control capabilities in a fine sense at all. And, it's like I grabbed the Okay, so if I look at my bowls, all right, I've got my my hot plate that I use during the winter months. I have my ceramic bowl that is sitting on top of that happens to have some Cat A puck soap in it. I have 2 or 3 lather salsa bowls on top of that, and I put my sriracha bowl on top. So yes, it is a rather dangerous Tower of Pisa sometimes, leaning over, especially with the sriracha bowl on top, and it's right on the edge. Well, I went to grab the sriracha bowl, and next thing I know, all the salsa bowls are bouncing along, around along the floor. Well, good thing they're salsa bowls because, well, they do bounce, and it doesn't hurt them a bit. So if it had been the sriracha bowl, well, first off, I would have been a little dismayed because, well, I like my sriracha bowl, but it does happen to be ceramic, and if it does fall, it will probably go smash. Okay. Just one of the things of life. But it was one of those instances where it's like, why am I dropping things? Why am I suddenly so clumsy? And then it kind of came back to me. It's like, okay, it was one of those moments that poor guy must have been experiencing, or maybe the quarterback for my high school team, when he's throwing the ball into empty space and just, there's nobody within a 15-foot radius of anywhere near where he's throwing. And it's like, okay, what? Why are you doing this? And I hearken back to this morning as the salsa bowls are bouncing along the floor going, what the heck did you just do? All right, maybe it kind of makes sense. Maybe I'll cut him some slack. Maybe. So, okay, yes, I'm a ham radio operator, and there are probably ham radio operators listening that are just going to hang their head in shame when I say this, but I have been looking at and researching, well, CB radios, and I have wanted to put a CB radio back in the truck for quite some time now, and I have been looking at them, and of course CB radio frequencies are sort of kind of different all over the world. Some are AM, some are FM, some are, it's just all over the place. And, which is intriguing in and of itself. I didn't know before I did my research that, for example, that that apparently Germany has the same CB radio frequencies that we do. I never knew that. It's just curious. Anyhow, I had wanted a single sideband radio just because when I was growing up, that's what we had. And it was enjoyable, doing what was known as talking skip. In other words, bouncing your radio signal off of the ionosphere all over the place and, talking to Texas from wherever. Long way away, which of course you're supposedly not supposed to do because, apparently according to the rules and regulations, you're only supposed to be able to talk like 50 miles or whatever, 150 miles I think is the limit or something like that. I didn't research into the rules. I mean, come on. But, you have a limited range that you're supposed to be able to transmit to with a CB. So, okay, fair enough. But one of the things that I wanted to do is I wanted to get a CB with a single sideband. Okay. So I got to looking, and the companies that make single sideband radios now seem to be Uniden and Galaxy. Cobra used to have one. It was the 148, the GTL, I think it was, and apparently they've stopped making the silly things, which is, you kind of look at it and go, okay, why? Because those were an exceedingly popular radio. I mean, at the recent Hamfest, the cheapest one you could find in semi-rough condition was $80. And, one that was almost looking like it came out of the box was, they want $135, $140 for it. Okay, fair enough. But at the same time, it's like, why would you stop making something that had a, commanding position? Unless, of course, you had fallen down in the quality department or the people that were making your boards, well, stop making them. Don't know. Anyhow, so I got to do a little research, and I think I'm going to end up getting a Galaxy. I haven't decided. I haven't pulled the trigger on it yet, but there's a Galaxy, and it's a 900 series, and there's two of them. There's a 959 and a 979. The advantage of the 979 is the microphone jack is in the front, which for my setup here in my truck is how I have my radios would be ideal. Now all I have to do is figure out where to put the antenna. So, I've already got one mag mount on the roof, and I don't want to scatter mag mounts all over my roof, but I'm thinking just for a little CB, I'm going to do a kind of a hood mount type thing, and we'll see what happens. But what I would really like to do eventually is I think I would like to get an all mode radio for 10 meters. So I don't know if I'll put the HTX 100 that I just put in, or that I just bought, or maybe get an HTX 10 all mode radio. Well, it doesn't have CW, but I'm not going to use CW in the car anyhow. And realizing that, yes, 10 meters is toast right now. I get that. But if I have the ability to put that kind of a radio in, whether I use a screwdriver antenna or something that can be used for other frequencies, I can always put something else in here. I don't know. It's just right now it's a exercise in my brain. Used to be that you'd sit there and doodle with pencil and paper your plans and aspirations and things. I do it in my head. And so anyhow, that's kind of what I'm thinking about. But I've heard good reports, and for a new radio, it's not terribly expensive. So at this point now, of course, I'm intrigued, and now it's like, okay, how do you go about aligning one of these things to get top performance out of it? And so now I'm going back and studying and saying, all right, what do I need to do here, and what gear do I need? And oh, geez, this is going to be fun. Again, if you're going to do a hobby, do it because you enjoy it, and do it because you have fun, and it gives you something, to think about. Sometimes what I found is, at least for me, and some people call me scatterbrained, that's okay, but I find that if I have a lot of things that's going on that I can bounce back and forth with, that, it just works well.
Well, that concludes this episode of the Brush and Soap and Blade Podcast. I hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as I enjoyed making it. If you have some suggestions or would like a topic covered, drop me an email at BrushnSoapnBlade@gmail.com or give me a call at 864-372-6234 or contact us on Twitter at BrushnBlade. You can also visit us at our blog, BrushnSoapnBlade.wordpress.com. As always, we're available on iTunes and Stitcher.